Sandy checking in with you on a Saturday, and I know you guys are probably looking for some Sunday Week 9 sniffs, and that's exactly what you're going to get. I mean, I know why you clicked on this video. You don't want to recap everything that happened on Thursday, except for the regular guy. Remember that regular guy I told you about who showed up and said, I would like one standard bet, please. $115 to win 100. And I said, okay, sir, how about we go Deontay Johnson over on receiving? And he said, thank you. And then he went home, won his bet, and now he's probably back for another standard regular. Are you going to be a standard regular guy on this Sunday, or do you want to be different? Do you want to be that regular guy, come in with 115, go home with 215? Something tells me you want to go home with a little more than that. Just because you're looking in the mirror and you see a 6 doesn't mean you can't go home with a 10, right? Wrong. Classic Willy Wonka. Anyway, we have a couple of bets that I like for you. I know last week I was all about the Dallas Cowboys, saying I never seen a team have a week 1 reputation last as long as the Rams did. Now I think it might be fully shattered, but not really, because we can still bet against them at a fair price. The only problem is you'd be trusting a pretty scary team to bet on in and of itself, but we'll talk about that in a second, because I will probably start with some of my favorites, leaning towards my favorite, but there is no Deontay Johnson. There are plenty of things I feel good about. Not sure how many Tony the Tigers are on this slate for me. There are a few that I definitely like. We'll start out with the ones I talked about on Francess and Friends. If you haven't watched it, you should probably watch it. We talk about all sorts of things like 90s toilet paper, but also a couple bets like Greg dished one out, and this is one of the good reasons. I know there's all the official reasons to join OddsShopper Premium. You're going to get some picks that they determine in their bunker at Area 51, which give you the best plus EV. But some of the times you go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. How did I not see that? And Greg pointed one out to me. I'm like, oh, of course. And this is the over 12.5 receiving yards for Chuba Hubbard. This is a guy who his role throughout the years has been a third down specialist. He's no stranger to catching passes, and now they've elevated him to quote unquote starter, but still he'll probably get like 50% of the snaps. And that's a lot better than just getting third downs. And we know that the Carolina Panthers have been utilizing the backs in the receiving game, whether it's been him or Sanders, pretty much all year. I'm going to go over 12.5. I think that's a great bunker work from Area 51 in that regard. Then also on the show, I ran one of my favorite bets. This is like a DFS sniff of mine. I'm like, this is a game suited for him. And it turned out that OddsShopper Premium heavily backed this opinion of mine, or this sniff of mine, and that's the over on DK Metcalf receiving yards. You guys know what I do here. It's not a mystery. I look at guys who we know are talented. We have years of proof. And then we take the over on them, and then if we happen to be very right, we can cash in with some tiered sniffing where we can take some alt overs. You don't have to go far to find some of those that we hit last Sunday. The Javonte Williams rushing, the CeeDee Lamb receiving. He went over, he was in the 60s last week because, didn't even have a down week before that, but I guess a couple weeks before the Chargers game, didn't really have any big outings against some tough defenses, and then they blew out some teams, so they didn't need to throw the ball. We know CeeDee Lamb has immense levels of talent, so we took the over and then some tiered. There's no reason DK Metcalf can't do that in this game. In a game they're going to need to score. They're probably going to have to throw a certain amount because it's not easy to run on the Baltimore Ravens. And, we saw Baltimore in their last home game really scored a lot on Detroit. So you got to figure that Seattle is going to be aggressive. No injury issues off the injury report. This game sets up well for DK Metcalf. Happy to know that OddsShopper Premium has my back on that sniff, or I guess it has my nose on that sniff. So I'm going with the over on DK Metcalf receiving yards. There are a couple other players on this slate with relatively low totals. Number one, I know this guy's been villainous at times, but last week should be the game that sets him in the right direction. We had two semi-nemesis throughout this season. One was Jalen Waddle, one was Devontae Smith. Well, they both came through. We're at the midway point of the season. Last week, 99 and a touchdown for Devontae Smith. Got to figure they put his total in the 60s, 67, something like that. No, we got it in the low 50s. You show me low 50s, I'll show you a good time. We know that the Cowboys secondary really isn't scaring too many people. They lost Diggs. Yes, they traded for Gilmore, but this is like, this isn't the Patriots shutdown Gilmore. This is a good Gilmore. Now, it sounds like some sort of sitcom spinoff or something. The good Gilmores. But Gilmore's probably going to be matched up against A.J. Brown, leaving Devontae Smith. And I know you're not supposed to say things like that. All I'm saying is in this secondary, Devontae Smith is going to have his opportunities against that pass defense of the Dallas Cowboys. With Dallas, it's all can you protect the quarterback and give him time? And if there's ever a line that guys like Parsons have struggled with, it's been the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. So I think Hurts will have time to find Devontae Smith down the field. I'll take the over on his receiving yards along with the 75 plus. So I like the over. The regular guy, you just take the over. Don't worry about it. The maniacs who want to take home a 10, you can take the 75 plus. If you're going to be taking all these alt overs on the receiving sniffs that I give out, you may as well do it with some bonus bets. And where can you get them? Where. Bet365. Sign up on Bet365. If you're a new user, deposit $10, make a $5 bet. They're giving you $150 in free bonus bets that you can be putting on all these alts and same game parlays, anything you want. As long as you're a new user over there, over 21, and you're in a state that has Bet365 and sports betting is permitted. If you are from Canada, just click the Canadian link in the description. If you're from the US, there's a link for you. And if you're from Serbia, there's a link for you and all other international users. So definitely click that down there to take advantage of that. Sign up at Bet365. But if you got a gambling problem, or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER so that somebody can help you out with that. One note, if you want to build a little same-game parlay in that game, I've seen increased utilization from Brandon Cooks these last couple of weeks. He's starting to inch closer to that breakout. The vulnerable part of Philadelphia's defense is that secondary. That's why they're trying to make trades to fill in some pieces there. It's a somewhat older secondary. They stuff the run like it's nobody's business. Pollard hasn't been able to get going on the ground. You're going to have to throw. Unless CeeDee Lamb's going for 200 yards, there's going to be opportunities elsewhere. And we have a low receiving total on Brandon Cooks. So I'm leaning towards the over on Brandon Cooks receiving. But if I'm going to take him, he's another one of these Devontae Smith type of guys where he's a vertical threat. He can take one catch for 30, 40 yards. So very tempted to take the 50 plus for him. Very, very tempted to take the 75 plus, but he hasn't earned that level of trust quite yet. I mean, the old Brandon Cooks used to soak up targets. Hasn't been the case with Dallas, but we have seen him trend in the right direction these last couple of weeks. But I will go with the over on the extremely low receiving total for Brandon Cooks in that game. I guess let's talk about a few running backs, then we'll come back to receivers. Two guys that I think they're slated to have very nice days. There's just one caveat with the first one. Jonathan Taylor, we've seen his utilization ramp up every single week, and they have a good total against a run defense who's extremely exploitable. My only concern is, why did he get 1 or 2 carries? So if you want to do a little bunker work, just make sure. Rumor has it he had a slight limp, but he's not on the injury report. Jonathan Taylor could go well over this total as long as he plays. I mean, Carolina's run defense, they weirdly have a decent secondary. They're going to run on them, and Taylor showed some explosive bursts last week. I mean, the opportunity is absolutely great there. So, assuming that he's relatively healthy, I like the over on that. Now, Bijan Robinson, they're going to be playing in Taylor Heineke's first start. They don't have Drake London, so they're down somewhat. They don't have many weapons. And this is a game where they're favored by a few against a quarterback who's going to be playing his first game. We know how much that the Falcons run the ball to begin with. They're like one of the most run-heavy teams, top 2 or 3 in the NFL these last 2 seasons. So while I agree, if you drafted Bijan in fantasy, you kind of get what you deserve with Algier getting all these carries. But I think in this particular game, There's going to be carries to go around. I wouldn't be surprised if Algier gets 13 and Bijan gets 18, whatever it's going to be. It should be enough to get him over that rushing total. He's been somewhat lackluster on the ground, but I think Heineke might open things up a little for him. So either you want to go with the over on rushing. I'm actually also okay with the over on combined rushing and receiving because we know that he can take a screen and go the distance. We want to maximize our opportunities to hit the over because he's going to pop a big play. The question is it going to be on a screen or is it going to be on a run? I guess maybe the over on combined rushing and receiving, weirdly, albeit a higher number, might be the safer route to go. Now we'll take things back to receivers. This is just so happens what I like on this. If there were more spreads that I liked, I would be giving you spreads. The one that I really want to push this to the limit. We took the Steelers 2 weeks ago against the Rams, said the Rams are living off that week 1 reputation. We took the Cowboys against the Rams, saying that the Rams are living off that week 1 reputation. And by golly, I'm going to go even further than that. I'm going to take Green Bay against the Rams, who I guess are living off that quickly fading week 1 reputation. Obviously, we got to see Stafford's situation. But even if Stafford plays, they're an extremely beatable team. As I kind of thought, they were protecting that offensive line, but Stafford is being engulfed just like he was last year. Caused him to get injured last year, caused him to get injured this year. And supposedly, if you're to believe a coach, which you shouldn't do all the time, Aaron Jones is going to be quote unquote unleashed, and that will definitely spring some life into that Green Bay offense, which desperately needs it. Another receiver that I like is Chris Olave. A lot of close calls for him throughout the season. He's one of the most heavily targeted receivers, but hasn't had many blow-up games, despite all the underlying numbers being very good. He's another one of these guys who has a low total against the Bears at home indoors. If Carr can't find him in this game, things are looking tough for the Chris Olave truthers, but I'm gonna trust the Olave truthers on this one. I tend to think I'm gonna be playing some of him in DFS. I tend to think he's gonna go over on his receiving yards. Something tells me they know he hasn't had that kind of game. He already is targeted very heavily. I imagine that will continue in this game. I'm gonna go with the over on receiving yards for Olave, and he's another 75+ candidate. How about we take a quick look at the night game, and then if you need something for the morning game, because you're that kind of guy, I'll give it to you. But the night game, I know every time you see it, I know you just want to smash the over on Gabe Davis because they put it so low. But there's another guy on there I like more than that because you know me, I get scared of Gabe Davis on the road. I really do. But trust me, I know that 41 is winking at me too. However, T. Higgins had the bye to get himself healthy, got himself healthy, looked good last week. The Bengals are just trending in the right direction. And I see no reason why he wouldn't be set up well to have a good game here. Burrow has looked as good as ever in that last game against the 49ers. They look like they're starting to click. And these last two times, well, the playoff game and the one quarter or whatever that they played against the Bills, they moved the ball through the air with ease. And if you look at, Burrow's yardage total or his projected passing yardage total, it looks like you can put some pass catchers in there. I'm going to go with the over on receiving yards for T. Higgins. And yes, he is another alt candidate. And if you're going to add Gabe, I know it's just so low. Kincaid or Gabe Davis is hitting that alternate. They're hitting that. One of them is, because Allen's going to be chucking, and there's only so much Diggs can have. There's no Dawson Knox, which helps consolidate the target tree. They do have Khalil Shakir, who's doing better and better. I mean, he had 90 yards last week, but by golly, it's hard. We know Gabe Davis can hit over 41, but I'm going to stick to my guns, not trusting him on the road. If I'm going to combine something with T. Higgins, 75+ receiving, it's going to be Kincaid, 50+ receiving, and it's going to be the Bengals to win the game. There's a little three-leg same game parlay to end the night, but what about starting the morning? All right, you had your breakfast, It's 9:30 and you need something. You really want to know what I think for this first game? As tempted as I always am to go Jalen Waddle because he's always getting the better looks. I'm going with the under on Raheem Mostert rushing yards. 31-year-old back started to slow down these last couple of weeks. And if you watched last week, weird three-man rotation. Also, we know he's been nursing some sort of ankle injury that's limited his practice reps throughout the last 2 weeks. Very underwhelming last week. Chiefs have a great defense. Javonte Williams needed 27 carries to get to 75 yards. And the way they're rotating Salvin Ahmed and Jeff Wilson like they did the last week, I think maybe they will go with more of a committee out there in Europe. So I'll go with the under on Raheem Mostert rushing if you need something earlier in the day. That is what I have for you here on this Sunday. Good luck to you. Seriously, good luck to you. The regular guy, good luck to you again. Better luck to me, of course. Come on. One of us needs to be taking home this 10. Make sure you're subscribed here to the OddsShopper channel. Definitely go check out those OddsShopper premium picks. Subscribe there. Follow me on social media. Greatly appreciate it. It's at Andy Francess on all social media platforms. And I guess I'll see you before Monday Night Football. Good luck.